We are live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Conscious and Connected during COVID-19. And I just want to remind our audience why we're here. We're here to help everyone stay conscious and connected during this strange time. So we've had amazing guests, like we do again today, that have brought gifts and tools and the lessons that they've learned to help them stay conscious and connected. And Conscious and Connected has been this amazing collaboration with myself, Jennifer Carey, and Dana Wood, and Integrative Counsel. So I'm going to hand it over to Dana Wood right now to introduce the lovely Rebecca.
Thanks, Jen and Rebecca. It really is a pleasure to have you here. And I want to just let the audience know that you are a mom with 2 children under the ages of 3. And it is no small feat to be here. I totally understand that. So thank you for carving out 20 minutes to share with us today your profound wisdom, because you stepped into my life in particular at a time that I was so welcoming and thirsty for all the information that you have, and you know your stuff. And so I'm so eager for you to share with our community today. So I'm going to hand it over to you, and I'm going to start with the question we start with all of our interviews. Who are you in under 5 minutes?
Oh, right. Well, I guess there's a few personas of me. There's a leisure persona and a work persona, and then a mum persona, I suppose. So I'll start with work, because that's kind of the easy one. So from a work perspective, I am an employee engagement practitioner. So I work with people to help them to find joy in their work, to ensure that people have motivation at work, feel engaged in what they do, and get value out of what they do. And I help not only people on the ground to do that, but also in organizations. I help people who are in leadership or management positions to create programs and structures that allow those people to have more fulfilling work lives. More recently, my work has sort of taken a slightly different turn, a slightly different angle, in that a lot of the work that I do in organizations, I found that much of the time there were almost blanket approaches to engaging people in the workplace, because often organizations are large, and trying to find processes and systems and structures that will engage everyone is hard, and it's time consuming and it's costly. But at the end of the day, everyone in any job, any company, anywhere in life is an individual. And so these blanket approaches kind of bothered me, and I wanted to make changes to how I approached it. So I've now shifted my focus to look from the bottom up, and I work with individuals or with people who are more connected to working with individuals to help them to find more joy in their work. So that's my work life. From a leisure perspective, well, at the moment, I do less of what I love to do, but I do find some things that I love to do. One of them definitely being exercise. I love to run. Before I had my second son, I was training for a half marathon, but pregnancy kind of put a stop to that. So now time's kind of putting a stop to that. So I'm hopeful I'll get back to it. But in the meantime, I'm enjoying I live in New England, so being able to go out and see the beautiful scenery and just run along the street is pretty awesome. So that's definitely something I love. I also love to travel, but that's, not really on the cards at the moment. And I love to read and write. Writing's a big part of who I am. And that's everything from fiction, non-fiction, just whatever takes my fancy at the time. And then I guess it's my mum and wife persona, really. So I have my husband, and he's awesome. He works really hard, and he always supports me in all of my work endeavors and as a mum. And then I have my 2 boys. So one is 2.5 and the other is 3.5 months. And they keep me incredibly busy. And I think you might hear one in the background, right on cue.
Right on cue.
Right on cue. And they are just the apple of my eye. They're just everything. You know, when they laugh, I laugh and I smile, and it lights me up. So yeah, I feel very lucky, very privileged to have all these wonderful things in my life. It's hard sometimes. It's definitely tiring. Last night was the first night that I actually got an almost full night's sleep. Babysat from 10:30 till 5. I would say that through the night.
Yeah. It's like they knew you had this in the morning.
Exactly. So we're in a good place. But yeah, was that less than 5 minutes?
Yeah, Rebecca, thank you for sharing so many facets of yourself. I mean, it's evident in all that you shared how much you love each of those things. So thank you.
Yeah, well said. You can tell the passion for really, really having this bridge and this impact on companies. I love how you're connecting with people, connect with companies to be kind of that mentor and coach for them. And yep, your passion with being a mother and a wife, and your passion with running and traveling and reading, yet you could feel it all. You feel it all. How are you staying conscious and connected with a 2.5 and a 3-month-old during COVID-19, Rebecca? That's probably how you're staying conscious and connected.
Important questions for other moms too.
Well, okay, so it's now that the baby is sleeping longer, it's a little easier. I read something actually the other day that said that once you get to about the 3-month point of a new baby, you kind of start to lose the plot a bit. You're a bit like, okay, I'm done now with the sleepless nights. I really just need to sleep. And I feel like you've kind of answered that prayer a little. So that's something. But before that, particularly now with COVID-19 happening, and my son was at preschool 3 days a week. So it was giving me some time to disconnect from motherhood for a few hours here and there, do some of the work stuff that I love, and just feel a bit more whole. But then that wasn't happening. So for these last couple of months, and then my husband has been home, which has been helping because he's been working, but in the basement, but he would normally have a long commute and he hasn't had to do that. So it means that he's been present to help me a bit more in the mornings and being here a little bit earlier in the evenings and around for half an hour or so at lunch. So that's helped. But the rest of the time, it's been me, and it's been on sleepless nights, and I can pretty much only describe it as firefighting, really. Trying to just run from one to the other, but also trying to find some bits of time for me where I have been trying to do some work. But if I'm honest, trying to do that probably made things more stressful. And what I found over time was that I really just had to let a lot of that go, and to just be present in the moment with the kids and with all of the housework and the cooking and the, all of the usual stuff that you have to do. But I was getting a bit of time to do that outside of, the kids being around, but not so much anymore. So yeah, I really had to be a bit more selective about the things that I was going to focus my time on, and to try to learn the appreciation for kind of the gift that we've been given of the family time. Because even though, yes, it's nice to have me time and I miss it, I do miss it, there's also something really special about this time where the two kids are here together with me, and that my husband is not present all the time because he has to work, but he's much more present. So our family time as a unit is unprecedented, really. Mm-hmm. And that is something to really hang on to. So you kind of feel a bit torn in lots of different directions, because there's a piece of me that I've had to try to let go, and I haven't fully let it go, because I think if you do that, you lose a part of yourself. And I think just keeping mentally healthy it's important to hang on to those things. But then I've also learned to appreciate, and I am appreciating, the time that I've got with the kids. So yeah, it's been a learning experience and a balance.
Mm-hmm.
Hard to find balance.
Yeah, it's funny, the verse, the saying, I think it's even a song. It is, I know it's a song. A time for everything is what came to mind in listening to you, that this is a time for family. This is, even though the work is still there and it's going to be there, when you are just present with the moment, and like you said, valuing the gift that has come from this, where your husband doesn't have to commute and be away for 4 hours in a car in addition to whatever else, or whatever, however you commuted. But you know, you now have this increase of time of family, and what a perfect time, like this foundational time with your little ones.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I love the reframe, Rebecca, because I mean, so much attention has been devoted to self-care, especially during this time. But your sort of willingness to surrender to what is, and to see the beauty in that is, I mean, that takes a level of sort of mental discipline that I think is important to mention, because yes, you have these things that you still love, but to really trust the timing, that at this moment you can almost relax into the joy of being with your family.
It's definitely not been an easy transition for anyone that is listening and thinking, you know, look at her, she's done that. How has she done that? It's not been something that I've just decided and it's come naturally. You know, every day is a challenge, but I try to just kind of remind myself, like snap myself into these moments and see the beauty in them. So, and it can only be, it might just be snippets, you know, like this morning I was running around on the deck with my 2-year-old, and just keying into him chuckling, and, you know, seeing his little feet run on the deck and thinking, they're not always going to be that little. Yeah. You know, it's just these little things that you try to grasp. And then the moment passes, you know, and then you do something else. And then, you know, there might be a moment where then I'm tearing my hair out because the baby's screaming and my toddler wants to eat something and he's shouting at me saying, iPad, you know, and I'm like, ah. So not, you know, it doesn't all just happen very smoothly and easily. It as you do it more and as you appreciate those moments more, it becomes easier to do it.
Well said. Well said.
Thanks.
I'm really eager to hear, especially given the context in which you just described, right? The fact that you are balancing many facets of yourself right now. I'm really eager to hear the sort of gift you're going to share with the audience today about how to love your work.
Yeah, so this is what I've been working on for about the last 6 months. For years, I've been interested in doing a PhD. I love research. I love to really get into why people operate in the way that they do, why people feel the way they do, why they think in the way they do. And by talking to people and doing interviews, you start to learn, what the individual differences are of everyone around us. And although I wanted to do that, I moved to the States about 5 years ago, and financially, and then obviously with the kids, time-wise, it just wasn't practical to do something like that. So after years of sort of thinking, how can I do this? I decided to start my own research and just to start some interviews, do some analysis, just look at the transcripts and just see what I found. And then as I was doing that, I found that the stories that I was hearing were really powerful and I wanted to share them. And so I decided to start a podcast so that people could hear the stories that I was hearing and to learn from them, to see how people had built these careers that they love, and what facts and tips and tricks other people could find to help them do the same thing. And then, so I've been doing those interviews here and there as I've found chunks of time to do them, and I've continued with that. And although the analysis has kind of taken a little bit of a backseat, and it's mainly just been the interviews and it's all there, the transcripts are there to analyze, and I intend to bring those insights. I want to put them into a book, which I've been writing, but again, that's kind of on the sidelines at the moment. But I'm still continuing with it, and I'm still thinking about it all the time. And I have various social media channels that I share insights as I hear them and as I read about things that are related to this idea of finding work that you love. And that can come in many different ways. It can be from changing career from something that you dislike to just reframing where you are so that it brings you more positivity than it does currently. And there's so many different ways to do that. And I think particularly now at this time when a lot of people are losing their jobs, a lot of people are reassessing where they are in their careers because they either have some time or because, they are stuck in a position that's making them unhappy. It might be that their company's struggling and they're starting to see the management or the people they work with in a different light because they're not getting treated in a positive way. And so they're starting to reassess. And so I feel like now is a really important time to continue to try to get that out there. So although it's challenging for me, as it is for many people, to make that happen, I'm still trying to get that information out there as much as I possibly can. And the other stuff will come later, and it will be even richer, informed by everything that's gone on, both with myself and in the world. So
yeah. Again, I hear you really talking about allowing for this pause. And with that pause often comes this opportunity to reassess many things. And most people are finding themselves in a position where we all are reassessing multiple areas of our lives. And for those reassessing work specifically, Rebecca, I'm curious if we're definitely going to have all your information at the bottom so they can follow you, because I know you put out a lot of great information. I think Twitter especially is your sort of go-to. Is that?
It is, and currently I'm trying to build an Instagram following as well. But the reason I'm doing that is I people I'm trying to reach, this sort of cohort of people that I'm trying to reach tends to play in that space. So that's why I'm expanding, my reach.
Okay. So I know, really, truly follow her because she has great information to share. But I'm curious if you have any thoughts or any sort of next steps for someone who is in that place of reassessment, so they truly can begin to reframe or to look somewhere different for that joy in the work they do.
So I think the main thing to really consider is to get back to the core of who you are and what you value, because it's very easy to fall into work, to any kind of job, and to kind of go along with it and wake up one day and realize that, hang on, I'm not happy. This isn't fulfilling me. I'm dreading going into work, or I'm dreading this conversation that I have to have, or this piece of work that I have to deliver. And it just doesn't have to be that way. There are ways to get back to the core of who you are, so that you can bring all of those facets of yourself to your work. Yeah, I think my message really is that it is possible to love what you do, and anyone can. And it's not something that necessarily happens overnight, and it's not something that's just, some kind of epiphany that just falls into place. Sometimes it takes work, and it can take some element of sacrifice to learn about yourself in that way, and to be connected to yourself in that way. But if you take that time and you really learn who you are, then you can find a career that fulfills you. And why not? Because we spend so much of our time at work. It's important for us to have that element of our lives to be positive as the other elements.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So that just self-exploration and really knowing who you are, what you love, what you value, and aligning yourself with work that's consistent with that. So that self-exploration is it,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And that, like I say, that can come in so many different ways. Sometimes it can be trying out different job roles. It can be looking at what your strengths are, trying to figure out, what you're best at and what you're not so good at, and figuring out ways to have other people do that work for you, or to reframe or reshape that work in a way that makes it more enjoyable. That can be having conversations with the people at work to try and reapportion the work that you have and they have, because sometimes it can be that the work that you do isn't something that you enjoy, but the person sat next to you does enjoy that. They get a thrill out of that. So let's swap. But it's just that you've never had that conversation before, so you don't know that. There's so many different little ways that you can change things. Sometimes it can feel all-consuming and overwhelming, and it's easy to just say, I hate everything that I do, and get stuck in that. But it doesn't have to be that way. With bite-size changes, you can craft a career that you love. I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Yeah, Rebecca, you're truly an example of living out all facets of your life. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you for, being willing to be here with us and have a 3-month-old in the background. Like, I love that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for the wisdom that you shared today. And the fact that we can all remember we can take it into bite-sized pieces to begin to make these shifts.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Yeah. That's exactly it. Just see it as one step at a time. Baby steps.
Yes, baby steps. And he has been cheering you on through this whole thing.
I think he might need my attention now.
Perfect timing. Go right ahead. Thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you.
Yes.
Take care. Bye, everyone. Bye. Bye.